Hello, everyone. My name's Karim. I'm the Metaverse lead for Microsoft UK. In short, what that means is I lead our Azure IoT and mixed reality businesses in the UK. And I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about building the future of 3D collaboration. We've obviously heard a lot about the Metaverse just then. 3D environments have been around for so long, right? Gaming have been pioneering in this space for a long time. And so I wanted to come here today to talk about what we're doing in the enterprise space and kind of the opportunity for game devs in the Metaverse and with mixed reality. So quick agenda of what I'm going to talk about, an introduction to mixed reality, what it is. You've probably obviously heard about VR and virtual reality, but what do we mean when we talk about mixed reality? Microsoft Mesh, which is one of our kind of flagship products in the mixed reality portfolio. Holoportation versus avatars, really quite cool. I've got a hologram of myself, which I'll be talking about, which is pretty cool. And then what are the next steps for developers in this space? So quick intro to myself. I've got a kind of 3 pictures that tell a little bit of a story. Far left, you'll see I'm an Arsenal Football Club fan, which, yeah, exactly, yes, splits the room usually. But what you can see here is I'm quite interested in immersive technology in my spare time. So here I'm actually watching an Arsenal football game live in virtual reality. I'm sat virtually in the Emirates using the Sky Worlds application, and I can look down on the touchline, I can see the players, I can see Mikel Arteta. Really, really cool, and just kind of a point that I'm interested in this technology just in my spare time. The middle is where my kind of professional life and my personal kind of passions collided. So previous to Microsoft, I used to work at McLaren, where I was leading the AR/VR strategy for McLaren. I was bringing in holographic technology to support the business in both automotive and Formula One. And that's ultimately led me to Microsoft, where I'm now leading the Metaverse strategy in the UK. And the final picture is just like a rolling picture of like who's the coolest person I can meet through AR/VR tech, and that's me with Nico Rosberg, Formula One world champion at COP26. So, mixed reality, what are we talking about when we talk about mixed reality? Well, we see it as the next evolution of computing. So the original mission statement for Microsoft was about putting a PC on every single person's desk. And we can say that in the developed world that's mostly been achieved. We're now very much in that mobile era where smartphones, iOS, Android are kind of leading in terms of the way that we interact with computing on a day-to-day business or a day-to-day basis. Well, what we're talking about with mixed reality is bringing that computing, bringing that content into the real world, and that's what we talk about with mixed reality. And ultimately, it's blending physical and digital experiences. So the physical world being the room that we are inhabiting right now, but the digital world being all of that 3D content that we interact with. And what we're talking about is bringing that 3D content into the real world through the power of mixed reality. Now, mixed reality is not a consumer product as it stands right now, or at least when we're talking about HoloLens. It's an enterprise tool, and we see it across various different industries, whether it's manufacturing, health, architecture, engineering, construction, retail, and education. And there's 6 kind of top use cases that we see this technology being used for and adding value to organizations today. I'm only going to call out a couple of those, one of them being remote assistance, one of the key ones that we used at McLaren. You can imagine a McLaren P1 comes into a dealership in Singapore. That's a multi-million-pound car with a high net worth individual that owns it, that doesn't want that car to be stuck in that dealership for a significant amount of time. So if there's a problem with that car, typically what we would do is fly an engineer out to Singapore to resolve that problem. But what if there was actually a holographic headset in that dealership that could then connect to the experts in the UK and over the shoulder see through their eyes and then augment their experience and see holographic content in front of them? So as that technician is working on that car, they can see images in their field of view. They can see 3D content in their field of view to actually help them resolve that problem. Really amazing technology. And then another one I wanted to call out was guided task execution. So you can imagine if it's your first day on a job, you need to be trained, right? So typically you'd be taken off the shop floor, you'd be going into a classroom, you'd be given paper-based training effectively sometimes VR. But what we've got with guided task execution, and especially through the HoloLens platform, you're able to be in your work environment, and with a holographic headset on, you're able to see effectively the holographic screws going into the nuts and bolts. You're able to see the things going together, and you're able to be guided through a task. Really, really cool technology. the last one I'm just going to call out is hybrid collaboration, which is really kind of where we're going with Microsoft Mesh. Why do organizations use this? I'm just going to kind of flash this up. This is a technology that, although you may not be familiar with, is actually being used quite widely across industry. Mercedes-Benz, in that use case I kind of talked about, and McLaren are seeing a 40% reduction in the travel costs required for servicing operations. And Lockheed Martin, with their NASA program, are seeing activities reduced from 8 hours to 45 minutes using holographic technology. And this is a technology that is very much a visual one. So I've got a few GIFs in the slides to give you a view of what this technology looks like. So this is remote assist, especially that remote assistance use case I was talking about. The user, the frontline worker, has an issue, and they're able to make a call through Microsoft Teams. So for the expert that's somewhere else in the world, they're just answering normally on their computer through Microsoft Teams. Whereas for the other user, the frontline worker, they are using a holographic headset, and they're seeing all of this content in their field of view. So the expert's sending an image, they just pin it on the side of the wall, and they can look at it when they want to. The expert can also annotate things in real time. They can send images, they can send PDF documents, they can share content. You're able to resolve the problem over the shoulder in real time, rather than typically, flying someone out there to resolve it. And if I jump into that guided task execution use case, what you've got is someone, the frontline worker, first day on the job, they need to learn how to do a certain process. And what you're able to do with holographic technology is you're able to guide that person step by step, tell them where they need to go, what they need to do, and you're able to see actual holograms of content going into place to actually talk them through a task effectively, as you can see that. A much more efficient way of learning, as you can imagine, than a typical classroom training or paper-based. But I've mentioned the word frontline worker quite a few times, which is very much the focus at the moment for mixed reality. But what we're seeing is that move from individual experiences to shared experiences. And when we talk about that, we're talking about Microsoft Mesh. So what I've got is a quick video to talk to you about the future vision of what Microsoft Mesh is, and then I'll kind of go into the nuts and bolts of what that is. So if we could dim the lights. Ooh, very nice. I'll play the video.
Connection is a spark that gives our lives meaning. It drives us to seek out others who feel the same way.
Okay, why don't you input the data and we'll take a look together. Hey Mari, what you got for me?
To find those who share our views, yet offer different perspectives.
そうですね. Look over here.
Challenge us with new ways of seeing.
That I think we should
deepen our understanding, and enrich our lives.
最后一笔的时候，往前。
Great things happen when we commit to something bigger than ourselves.
Let's take a closer look at it.
place this here. Let's see how we go from there, okay?
This sense of collaboration and the feelings of connection it brings excites us.
Hey, just in time. I'm gonna move it slightly, okay?
It's yours, take it.
We have 2 planes right now on the same trajectory.
As we put people first, technology fades into the background and feels like anything but.
Aisha, what do you think?
I think if we had 330, maintaining 2800, we'll be clear for approach.
Excellent.
This changes the way we see the world, and in turn, changes the world we see.
These numbers are looking great, actually.
There's promise in the possibilities, and what we see and create next will stretch the imagination.
Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Slowly coming towards the thumb.
A world without boundaries.
Good job. A lot better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Excellent. Slowly bring
A world where technology enhances, not limits, humanity. With people front, center, and in the spotlight. The future is here. And here can be anywhere. Introducing Microsoft Mesh.
Pretty futuristic, right? Yeah, that was the first time I saw that video. I was like, well, oh, well. But Yeah, but there's the kind of three core components of Microsoft Mesh, which is that feeling of presence, experiencing things together, and then connecting from anywhere, from any device. So that feeling of presence, right? As you can imagine, through the pandemic, tools like Microsoft Teams have been absolutely invaluable in the way that we communicate, despite not being able to be there together. But there's something lost through 2D means of collaboration and communication. And what we're trying to do with Microsoft Mesh is in those situations where you can't be together physically, to make that a much more immersive experience, to make you feel like you are together. And then when you are together there virtually, that you can experience content and experiences together. The final kind of core tenet of Microsoft Mesh is that connection from anywhere. You know, obviously there is Halo devices like the HoloLens 2, but we don't want this experience to be limited to that. We want it to be cross-platform from Oculus VR to PC to HoloLens. That's a core component of what Microsoft Mesh is all about. And on that feeling of presence, I've kind of got a slide which kind of gets a kind of a clip from the video that you just saw, which shows the different ways of representing yourself in this meeting. So the person in the middle is obviously there physically in the meeting room, but they're wearing a holographic headset, HoloLens 2, and they're able to see two different representations of that person or different people joining the meeting. So the one on the left is joining as an avatar. Avatars are nothing new, been around for a long time, an easy way to represent yourself in a 3D space. The one on the right, however, is what's called a holoportation of someone actually being digitally transported into that space. And I've got a kind of a quick image and clip to kind of show what that looks like today, roughly. So on the right, I'm joining a holographic meeting with my colleagues. So these are the business leaders for mixed reality across Europe. So Renee, Offman, and Mariano, covering the different markets. I obviously cover the UK. And we're meeting virtually in a space, and we are using our avatars to communicate and represent ourselves. The clip on the left is what's called a volumetric capture of me, which then can be brought digitally into different rooms and experiences, effectively a hologram that I can then place anywhere, which is, when I first saw that, it was the weirdest thing. I had a HoloLens on, and I had the hologram of me looking at me. It was a bit kind of Minority Report science fiction style. Pretty crazy. But as you can imagine, in the future, that instead of a webcam, you would have some sort of capture technology that would bring you into the meeting room digitally. At the moment, holoportation has working demonstrators, but to get this kind of high fidelity hologram requires quite an intense setup. So this is me at Dimension Studios in Wimbledon doing the actual capture here. So there's over 200 cameras in this space, in this green room, capturing you from every single angle, and there's infrared capturing the kind of depth-sensed information. All of that data is then collated to create effectively what's called a volumetric capture, effectively a hologram of that person. That's not live, that's pre-recorded, and then there's a lot of post-processing associated with that. But in the future, what Dimension Studios and Microsoft are looking at is bringing that into a live setting. And Microsoft Research have actually got working prototypes of holoportation working in real time, which is really awesome. Okay, so that's holograms, that's avatars, holoportation. Well, what's Microsoft Mesh? Where are we today, and what's the future roadmap? So as it is today, we have the Mesh app for HoloLens. So for HoloLens to HoloLens collaboration, we have a free app on the store where you can download, create your own avatar, and communicate either in the same space or in a hybrid setting where someone's in a different location. And we also have a business variant of AltSpace VR, which we're working on to bring that into the kind of corporate space. But what's really cool, which is coming, is that mesh capability into our existing portfolio of solutions. And one of the ones I wanted to talk about a little bit was Mesh for Microsoft Teams. Effectively, Microsoft Teams is one of our biggest products, as you can imagine, at Microsoft, one of the biggest user bases across any of our portfolio, and bringing that avatar technology, bringing that gaming technology effectively into an existing setting is really exciting. And there's three core components of Mesh for Microsoft Teams. First one being customized and expressive avatars, being able to represent yourself digitally in a 3D space. And then if you're representing yourself in a 3D space, you need 3D spaces to be in. So we have immersive spaces, right? So effectively immersive meeting rooms and spaces for you to collaborate and communicate in. And then the final one being that Microsoft 365 integration. So as you can imagine, bringing in your OneDrive files, your assets, your 3D content to make that collaboration much more seamless. This is a sneak peek. The picture on the left was actually tweeted by our corporate vice president, Jeff Teeper. Pretty sure he wasn't allowed to do that. But I figured if he's tweeted it and he's not deleted the tweet, I can put it in my slides. Maybe I'll get told off, who knows. But effectively, it's a kind of a preview build of Microsoft Mesh for Teams. Gives you a kind of a glimpse into what it might look like. So you can see people are joining the meeting in a normal way. Their cameras are on and their cameras are shown in the top left. But some people are joining that meeting immersively, so they're in the meeting room. And instead of seeing that content shared just in Microsoft Teams, they effectively see it on the wall as if they were in a kind of a real world meeting room. So pretty cool technology. And then the other one is just some people playing ping pong, which is, I don't know, quite cool. Okay, so why am I here today? Well, it's all about talking to you guys as game devs, because you guys actually have the skills to get involved in this kind of technology today. And Microsoft, we have those first products and partner solutions that go direct to consumer, to enterprise. But actually, underneath that, we have a lot of tools on the Azure stack and with Microsoft Mesh where people can get started and actually building this technology today. And so what we have is we have the first layer, which is the edge layer. So the devices like the HoloLens 2, virtual reality headsets. Obviously, we support PC and mobile. And then on top of that, we have the Azure services. So we have things like Azure Spatial Anchors, remote rendering, object anchors. These are all services that help you build mixed reality experiences today. And then, of course, the top, which we've already kind of covered, which is those consumer-grade or enterprise-grade solutions, such as Microsoft Mesh, Dynamics, etc. So on the kind of moving from bottom to top, one of the key kind of core products that I look after is the HoloLens. There's different variants and SKUs of that device. Effectively, there's the standard SKU, and then you could say on the far right is a kind of an extreme SKU, which is for kind of architecture, engineering, construction, the Trimble XR10. It's effectively a hard hat that has a HoloLens built into it. And one that might be interesting is the HoloLens Developer Edition. Effectively comes with Azure credits to get you started with these tools, comes with subscriptions and things like that. But really, there is also the HoloLens emulator, so there's no requirement when you're getting started with development to have a device. You can, of course, emulate that. And then one of the core things about building mixed reality experiences is you do so in a very similar way to building a game. Unity and Unreal are amazing game engines that are able to render 3D content quite easily. And what we've built alongside the community is an open source toolkit called the Mixed Reality Toolkit, or MRTK. Effectively, it's a load of components, plugins, samples, and everything that you need to get started building mixed reality experiences today. So if there's something that you wanted to just test out and have a go with, get the HoloLens emulator, get the Mixed Reality Toolkit, the open source thing. If you use Unity, use Unity. If you use Unreal, use Unreal, and have a go. Try building holograms today. It's a bit of fun. And then there's obviously the Azure services that actually power and support these solutions in the background. So first one, remote rendering. I remember your comment on the NVIDIA graphics cards, right? So when you've got a HoloLens on your head, it's effectively not connected to any computer, so it has limited graphics capability. You haven't got a NVIDIA RTX, whatever on your head, right? You've got a limited computing device. But what that means is if you want to render a quite high polygon asset, it's quite difficult. Well, effectively impossible, because you've effectively got a mobile computing unit on your head. So if you want to render really high fidelity content, well, how do you do that? Well, effectively, remote rendering enables that through cloud rendering. So what you're able to do is have that high polygon asset. All the rendering is done in the cloud, in Azure, and you're effectively just streaming that content to the headset. And you can imagine in the future when you have like smaller and smaller headsets that the compute on device will be smaller and smaller, and actually will be outsourcing that computing to the cloud. And that's remote rendering, which really, really supports HoloLens, specifically applications today. Spatial anchors. So you can imagine you're bringing digital content into the real world. Well, if you want that content to be in a certain place all the time, or in the same place, you want to anchor that in kind of XYZ coordinates, right? So you can imagine in an enterprise setting, you're in a factory, you see these guys are turning up to a piece of machinery. That piece of machinery never moves, but you want to present the IoT data relative to that machinery in that location. So when someone turns up with a HoloLens, it understands where it is and presents all the content relative to that component. Well, what you need is effectively a service to anchor that content to an XYZ coordinate, and that's what spatial anchors really does. And the last one is object anchors. So, okay, back to the McLaren scenario, our production line I say, I don't work there anymore, but the production line of McLaren is actually all on wheels. So effectively, you could rejig the entire production line for the supercars if you wanted to, and they do that from time to time. The challenge of that is that the equipment is never really in the same place or could move. And so spatial anchors wouldn't really work because you'd be presenting content in an XYZ coordinate, but that component may not be there anymore. So with object anchors, what you're able to do is you're able to look at a piece of equipment, the HoloLens or the mobile device scans that device, creates a mesh of it, understands what that is, and then locks the content relative to the component or to the equipment, which is a different way of anchoring or bringing digital content into the real world. And so what are the next steps for you guys? I asked my kind of development team in Seattle to say, okay, what are the kind of 3 key links that you guys might need in terms of getting started if you're interested in learning more about this technology? So aka.ms/MR Meetup. That will get you to our online meetups and community. You'll be able to see any kind of live events that are happening online or in person regarding mixed reality developments. Might be interesting. I want MR. If you want to become an official MR developer, if you're really interested in that, there's an application process to have a look at there. And then, of course, the documentation that you would need. So aka.ms/MR docs has all of our mixed reality documentation. And then, obviously, I'm here with the Azure gaming team today, and so I just wanted to give a final plug to IDEA Azure. It is a really, really awesome technology stack. The ability to have over 5,000 US dollars of credits to get started is pretty amazing, and then ability to have access to amazing resources to get you started, really cool. And I've just got another aka.ms, it's all kind of short, like bit URLs. So aka.ms/LGF22/IDEA Azure or IDEA Azure will get you all the content you need to find out a bit more about that. And that's everything. I've got a QR code here of my LinkedIn profile. I don't think it's going to work. But yeah, if you want to talk to me afterwards, just come up and chat. Thank you.